Hey everyone, what's going on? Thanks for joining me once again and welcome back to another video. So in today's video I'm continuing with my existing collection, just continuing down the alphabet. So this chapter takes me to a new band. So again, it's another video with multiple releases by one band. Once again, this is not a ranking discographies video because I don't actually own all albums by this band, but I own quite a few, so I'm going to talk about all of those today. Okay, so the band in question is actually CATHEDRAL, which are quite established worldwide, famous, known as a doom metal band, or also known as psychedelic rock, or psychedelic heavy metal, a combination of those things really, call it what you want, but one of my favorite bands of all time actually, and that's quite interesting because doom isn't normally my thing, except I think this band's in a league of their own, so I'm going to talk more about the styles of the albums as I continue today, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, just before we get started, what I put on in the background is Black Sabbath's self-titled debut album. I thought this was quite fitting because essentially, not only was this the first heavy metal album ever, if you really think about it, but it was sort of the roots of doom metal, what inspired doom metal, and specifically CATHEDRAL as well, so that's why I thought it was fitting to put that on. Okay, so with CATHEDRAL, it was formed by Lee Dorian. He was previously the vocalist of Napalm Death, so it was quite a jump in style, so from, blood-curdling screaming in a grindcore band to forming a kind of psychedelic Sabbath tribute band, I suppose. But it sort of went a little beyond that as well. So yeah, quite interesting, and one of the most established bands in the genre. So quite a few releases to talk about today, so let's get started. All right, the first album I have is In Memoriam. Now I say album because it's technically not an official release. I shared this on my Instagram the other day, and actually one of my friends, Gordon, pointed out, he said, "Oh, where'd you get that?" I've never seen it before, and it didn't occur to me that this wasn't an official release. So I bought this in Australia years ago, discounted, the price was right. I think it's some kind of a bootleg. So you see here, and yeah, it's got some old photographs and some liner notes, which are cool. And basically, I don't know, what do you call this, an EP? They've got 4 studio songs and 5 live songs from Holland in 1991. So yeah, this one, if I'm being honest, although I'm not ranking the discography today, of the ones I'm going to show, this one is definitely my least favorite. Now the reason I say that, as I mentioned, doom metal isn't my number one style. This is back in the early days when it was kind of purist doom, where it was very slow and heavy and hypnotic, not much melody but more heaviness, if you like. And I've got nothing against that personally, but like with doom metal, I find that kind of purist doom or funeral doom, sometimes it's a bit like, it's hypnotic and heavy, which is cool, but for me it's often just a bit too slow and repetitive, and that's what I find about this particular release. Like, don't get me wrong, I am tapping my head along, when I'm listening to this, to some of the tracks, but it's not the kind of album I put on to get me going in the morning. But then again, doom metal isn't really, is it? But anyway, yeah, all tracks are decent, but they kind of, for me, maybe it's because I'm not a doom fan, a purist doom fan, they're kind of interchangeable and they blend into one. But of the 4 studio tracks, my favorite one is All Your Sins, which is actually a cover of, I always forget, I was going to say, is it St. Vitus? Or, I can't remember, I'll leave it below anyway. But that's just got the most memorable riff, like really good melody in that song. But yeah, all tracks are good, and then in the Live in Holland 91 tracks, they're actually really good because you see how the band replicates those studio skills live, how they play so slowly. It's actually really interesting. And they repeat some of the studio tracks like All Your Sins and Morning of a New Day, and they're dead on accurate, so it's not just studio frills, they play it well. So I'd recommend this if you like purist doom and you haven't heard this, check it out. It's just not my number one kind of thing, but interesting for a listen once in a while anyway. So that's CATHEDRAL with In Memoriam. Okay. Alright, so up next in the chronological order, there are some gaps in the collection, but I'm just going chronologically. The next album I'm going to show, this was one of the first ones that I really liked. This is the Ethereal Mirror. So I'll leave the release date down the bottom. This was early 90s, I think. So look at that amazing psychedelic, colorful artwork, which has sort of become a tradition for their albums. Then you've got the lyrics in a vortex or spiral, very appropriately psychedelic. Yeah, so there was actually a full-length album before this, which was Forest of Equilibrium. I don't actually own that, but it is a good album. Again, that's more sort of purist doom. This one I got, this is actually a Japanese version. I used to have the Obi strip, but I always find those Obi strips are really annoying because they get in the way, so I've just thrown it away somewhere. Well, not thrown it out, but it's somewhere. But anyway, yeah, really like this album. This is good. This is when the band started. It's sort of like a cross between doom metal, purist doom metal, but also going in a more melodic, rocky, psychedelic direction, sort of in the vein of Black Sabbath. And for me, this is where their trademark sound really started, if you like. So, yeah, great album, a lot of diversity. What I like about it is the fact that the tracks are rocky and catchy, but they still have some really slow, heavy, sludgy, doomy riffs, which are really heavy, so it's fantastic. Yeah, a lot of great tracks on this, but some of my favorites, I'm sure most people who are fans of this band would agree with me. Ride is a good one, very catchy. Also, Enter the Worms, Grim Luxuria, Ashes You Leave. They're just quite a few standout ones for me, but my two absolute favorite tracks would be Midnight Mountain, just a fantastic, heavy, catchy, fun track, and you know, the stomping and clapping at the end, it's awesome. But my absolute number one track on this album is Fountain of Innocence. It's so psychedelic and atmospheric and dreamy, especially that bridge in the middle. Like, to me, that's just like a psychedelic eargasm, basically, like just a brilliant peak of atmosphere in that song. It's fantastic. So yeah, Fountain of Innocence and Midnight Mountain are my favorite. Actually, Midnight Mountain, that was also released on an EP by this band called Static Magic, which my brother owns. I don't. That's a 4-track EP. Awesome. Like, you've got Static Magic, Cosmic Funeral. Yeah, but like all 4 tracks on that are great. And but if you're watching, I know we always like to sing the lyrics of Cosmic Funeral, you know, Disco Supernova. That's a brilliant EP, so check it out. But yeah, this one here, yeah, got some of my favorite tracks, but is it my favorite album overall? No, but a damn good one. So check this out. That's Cathedral with the Ethereal Mirror. Okay. So what we have next is one I've already spoken about in Love at First Listen, so you probably already know my opinion about it. This is the Carnival Bizarre, which came out in 1995. Just to cut a long story short for you, this is my favorite Cathedral album of all time. It has a lot of nostalgic value to me. When I was about 18 years old, just starting university, I bought this album, so it really takes me back to that time. Again, my brother introduced me to this band as a whole with, what was that album? Supernatural Birth Machines, which I don't own, but songs like Urko's Conquest, Fireball Demon, Suicide Asteroid introduced me to this band. I bought this one quickly afterwards. So yeah, Carnival Bizarre, I think it's revered by many as their legendary release. Just that crazy psychedelic artwork again, really cool. And all the lyrics laid in here, very nice. Yeah. So if you have seen my Love at First Listen video, I'm not going to repeat myself, but I think this album is absolute perfection. 10 tracks, I love them all, they're really great. This is when the band went in an even rockier direction again, so let's just backtrack. It went from purist doom to purist doom mixed with some rock, and now it's going into like really heavy Sabbathy, Black Sabbath kind of heavy rock, which is really cool. Just some great melodies. By the way, I never mentioned Lee Dorian's voice. Like, he's just got this very distinct way of singing. Like, it's not like someone who's singing perfectly in tune, but just the melodies are so infectious and they really stick in your head, and he's just got that voice which really stands out. I would say he's one of my favorite vocalists of all time, but he does a great job on this. This saw personnel change. I think like Gary Jennings, he was still on guitar, but it saw the addition of Leo Smee on bass and Brian Dixon on drums. Like, all musicians on this album are just great. The drumming is really heavy, great snare sound. The guitar riffs are heavy, and it actually, one song featured Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath as a guest member, so I'll talk about that in a moment. But yeah, this track shows the band starting to play more of those rock-oriented kind of tracks. Like, you look at tracks like Hopkins, The Witchfinder General, which was one of the first tracks I heard by this band. Very heavy and catchy, great song, easy to sing along to. And other tracks like Carnival Bizarre, the title track. Yeah, that kind of thing. See, those songs. And Vampire Sun, just very catchy. Vampire Sun is actually very Sabbathy. And like, you know, that squeak and screeching before the music starts, it's just etched into my head because I've heard this album so many times. But as I said, so many brilliant tracks, but if I had to name some absolute favorites, my favorites would be track 3, Utopian Blaster, just great driving riff on that song, a little bit of a Zeppelin influence. Also Night of the Seagulls, just epic, heavy, doomy, and that's the song which features Tony Iommi. Was that Fangalactic Supergoria? That song fucking goes off. It is so heavy and catchy. It's euphoric, that song to me, Fangalactic Supergoria. Also, Blue Light, that's like a slow and mellow psychedelic one. When I first heard that when I was 18, I was going, oh, this opens up a new world to me musically. Like, they use the mellotron and it's very sort of hippie-esque, but like, great melody in that song. Also, some of the tracks which grew on me much later were Palace of Fallen Majesty and Electric Grave, the closing tracks. Like, Palace of Fallen Majesty is so mammothly heavy, and Electric Grave is just this epic, I don't know, how would you describe it? Epic, like, spiral vortex of an outro song. It's just brilliant. So, like, every track. Also, Inertia's Cave has got some great melodies. So, I think I've mentioned every track there. But, yeah, as I mentioned before, I loved it the first time I heard it. I still love it to this day. It's 10 out of 10. Check it out if you haven't. So, that's Cathedral with the Carnival Bizarre. So, the album which came out after this was, of course, Supernatural Birth Machines. As I said, I don't own it. My brother does, but I really do like that one. A lot of people thought that album was a disappointing follow-up to the Carnival Bizarre. Maybe disappointing is a bit harsh, but I agree it's not as good, but it's hard to top an album like this straight after. But like, my favorite tracks on Supernatural Birth Machines, as I said, Urko's Conquest, Fireball Demon, and Suicide Asteroid, so you can check out those songs for just awesome kick-ass tracks. And we will go into the next one. So, previous one was Carnival Bizarre. What I have next, this is Cathedral with Hopkins, the Witchfinder General. So, as you know, that is a track from Carnival Bizarre. This is like the EP/single release. So, it starts with the song Hopkins, the same one, which is a great heavy psychedelic doom track. It also has a spoken intro, so it makes it a little bit more atmospheric and dramatic. And then what they also have is, I think, a series. Oh no, they wrote some of their own songs like Purple Wonderland, The Devil's Summit, Copper Sunset. They also do a cover of the song Fire. And you know the famous song Fire, I Bring You Fire. It's a really great melody anyway. I loved that the first time I heard it. Their cover is really good. I'll leave the actual artist down below who they're covering, but Fire is a great track, Hopkins is a great track. And then the song The Devil's Summit, that shows this band's sort of progressive side where they get quite experimental with brass instruments and all that stuff. Except I did hear in the past that they were kind of a band that did prog rock piss takes, so I'm not sure if it's seriously. But anyway, sort of suits the psychedelic nature of this band. So, portrait of the band here. Cool disc. Very 1960s hippie-esque lettering there. Appropriate. And yeah, picture of good old Hopkins and the lyrics there. Yeah, so just a fun EP. And actually, I tell a lie because after my brother, after he introduced me to Supernatural Birth Machines, I heard this EP first before finding Carnival Bizarre, but that also featured this one on it, so they're closely connected. But anyway, very good EP. That's Cathedral with Hopkins, the Witchfinder General. Alright, now I'm getting through this faster than I thought, which is good, because I don't want to repeat myself too much. Up next, we have the album which followed Supernatural Birth Machine. This is Cathedral with Caravan Beyond Redemption. So again, continuing that colourful psychedelic kind of style and artwork. Beautiful booklet once again, all in purple. Yep, awesome pictures, so much to look at. Now, this album, this is probably the catchiest album they've ever done. It's the one where they always have doom roots, but this is the one where they went in the rockiest, catchiest kind of a direction. And is there a problem with that? Not for me. I think it's fantastic. Like, really, really good. It's a very fun album. Like, you can't help but have these songs hook and reel you in and you're singing along. It's really, really good. Just a little bit less doom-laden than the others. Like, it's still obviously psychedelic and doomy, but just more of a rocky direction. But I heard that Lee Dorian said after this album, they did like this album, but then they felt that with this it was going in too much of a safe direction. So the album which came out after this, End Time, went back to their purest doom roots. But yeah, I never bought End Time because, as I said, that's not the kind of album I like. Like, for me, I prefer this style, this rocky style, which they have. So this one, again, basically, it's just the band getting better and better at what they do, just catchier, rockier songs. The single from this was The Unnatural World, which has got that awesome heaviness and snare sound. It's sort of very similar to Carnival Bizarre. Yeah, just those catchy kind of rocky songs like Satanicus Roboticus, Revolution. Yeah, there's kind of classic heavy songs, but some of my favorites for me are Voodoo Fire, the opening track, like just so energetic, and it just like sets the tone for the album. It's brilliant, like bursting with energy, that song, and very diversive and like so many different aspects, like voodoo, drums, mellotron and everything. It's really good. Also, Freedom is a good song. Like that's delving into psychedelic territory again. Now, my absolute favorites, let's just cut to the chase, shall we? Captain Clegg, I love that song. That is brilliant, just so epic. Great riff, great vocals in that song. And that's talking about, I think he was a British outlaw, like a pirate or something, like a illegal merchant at sea or something, but it tells his story, but like just such an epic, catchy song. It's really, really good. And that song always invokes the atmosphere to me of something like Pirates of the Caribbean those days, you know, like pirates out at sea and fighting. By the way, I did love the Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, The Curse of the Black Pearl. After that, the rest of them were fucking crap, in my opinion. But anyway, if you like pirate flicks and that kind of thing, yeah, Captain Clegg invokes that kind of atmosphere. Also, another great track is Earth Messiah, just so heavy, groovy and catchy, very, very psychedelic, and like just these infectious melodies you can't deny. It's great. Revolution is a good sort of like a hippie anti-establishment song, like sort of very 1960s in spirit. But Heavy Load is a brilliant song. That song reminds me of like a mixture between Black Sabbath, Cream and Led Zeppelin, so very 60s/70s psychedelic, which is really good. Also, the Omega Man. Oh, words can't describe. Brilliant song, like just so dreamy and atmospheric, and then they launch into this massive thunderous heavy part, but like Omega, like I think they use flutes in that song, in the Omega Man, but one of my favorites. Yeah, so, and then there are a couple of other ones that I haven't mentioned, but yeah, they're all pretty good. Kaleidoscope of Desire, I don't like that one because it's a little bit sappy and soppy, but still, it's not bad. So just to recap my favorite tracks: Voodoo Fire, Captain Clegg, Earth Messiah, Heavy Load, and the Omega Man. So those tracks can get you started for this album if you haven't heard them, but I definitely recommend that you check this out. So that's Cathedral with Caravan Beyond Redemption. Alright, and coming up to the last album that I own by this band today. So, as I said, they released an album called End Time, which I didn't buy because I'm not really too much into that purist doom style. But then they came back with this album, 2003. This is Cathedral with the 7th Coming. In my opinion, this album is an underrated gem. Like, it's a real grower, this one. This is when they, after End Time, which was purist doom, they sort of moved back in the rocky direction, but retaining elements of doom again. Again, brilliant, colourful, detailed artwork for this one. And lyrics, but they're not the most readable, but you know, really, really good album. This album is very nostalgic to me because it reminds me of a particular stage in my life, like where I was living, what I was doing at the time, and you know, where I was studying and just before going into work and everything. But really, it brings back a lot of great memories. So yeah, great album, great return to form. I think this one's underrated. Some of my favorite tracks on this would be, basically, we cut to the chase. Like the first 7 tracks, you just can't go wrong with, like Phoenix Rising, great, awesome, heavy riff in that, and that familiar cathedral melody that you really like. Yeah, Resisting the Ghost is more like a straightforward rocker one. Then Skullflower, brilliant psychedelic heavy groove in that song. Like the riff is just so catchy, and it's got these great clean, dreamy atmospheric vocals from Lee in that song, so Skullflower is good. Then Aphrodite's Winter, track 4, is also very psychedelic and dreamy, invoking just this really sort of otherworldly atmosphere, I would say, on that song, which is great. Then The Empty Mirror, awesome groovy rocking track, and just that riff, you know, you just can't help not liking it. It's brilliant. So Empty Mirror, catchy chorus on that song too. Then it goes into this sort of like dreamy, atmospheric interlude where it's almost like ambient in the background, but then they kick off with the riff again and that groove, and you just go, oh, it's back with Gaz's guitar solo, brilliant. Also track 6, Nocturnal Fist, that's probably one of my favorites. It's like awesome, bursting out from nowhere with great energy and like brilliant guitar solos, so much energy, great melody, great chorus, everything about that song is just fucking amazing. So Nocturnal Fist. And then one that's grown on me a bit lately is track 7, Iconoclast. Like it's that kind of riff and chorus which sticks in your head. Like you go at first, oh, it's nothing special, but then I always find myself singing along. Well, that's great. But yeah, all really good songs on this. So there's how many? 10 tracks, and I've just said the first 7 are my favorites. So that should give you an indication that it's a pretty damn good album. So that's Cathedral with the 7th Coming. All right, so believe it or not, that's it for this video today. I know the band released a few albums after this, but again, I just haven't got around to picking them up. My brother, he owns The Guessing Game, which I think could be their last album, and he said that's really good. I think Cathedral never really disappoints, so I'll fill the gaps later on. But anyway, what do you think of Cathedral? As I said, for me, this is not the style I normally listen to, but I think this band is in a league of their own, and like just with their songwriting style, which is so distinct, and also Lee's distinct lyrics and vocals and everything, like this music, it's the oral equivalent of an old friend, you know. It's that atmosphere, it's nostalgic, it takes me back to times when I was younger in my life and everything, and brings back great memories, and like the music is still great quality. So I think that's a sign of a really good band if it invokes that nostalgic quality in you. But yeah, Cathedral, absolutely fantastic band. If you've never heard them before, I recommend you start with the albums that I've just talked about today. Yeah, so let me know what you think about this band, and any other Doom bands. Maybe you can sway me. What are some Doom bands, if I like this band, what others should I check out? Some people have said, oh, you should check out Orange Goblin, Electric Wizard. I should get around to it. But anyway, let me know what you think. I'd be really keen to hear from you. Alright, so that's it for today. I'm not going to let you know right now what I'm doing in the next video because I haven't decided yet, but that will be coming soon, hopefully. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Hopefully you made it through this video, the whole thing. I really appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a thumbs up for the support. I'd really appreciate it. And thanks as always for your support of this channel. Okay, so in the meantime, take care, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.